to see you all here. Thanks for coming. It's really nice to be able to talk about cricket in this horrible, dirty, wet day. And we're going to talk, Michael and I, about the T20 World Cup a little bit. I think what I'd say about the T20 cricket is it's a bit like the iPhone in that it's lots of entertainment and technology beautifully packaged in a small kind of little space. So it's appropriate, I think, that we're talking about the T20 in a place like this. Before we get on to T20, one question for you, Michael. Yorkshire are in the news again, as usual. Rows in Yorkshire. Geoffrey Boycott wants to join the board, and you're telling him he shouldn't.
And I'm
why are people in Yorkshire always rowing?
Well, you've asked me the question. He shouldn't. I'm absolutely right. He shouldn't be anywhere near the board. He's 75. He's a legend of the club. The club have just won 2 county championships. You know, I think from 2002 to now 2016, yes, the debt has risen. You know, but he's been on that board as well. And while he was on the board, the debt rose by 60%. So he's I'll listen to Boycott all day long on forward defence, and they played a lot of those. I'll listen to him about batting, cricket. His knowledge is wonderful, but he's no financial expert.
Okay, well, let's just introduce tonight with a little bit of the flavour of the kind of incredible shots and dynamic batting that you can see in T20. I made a little video of the guy that I think I'd always pay to go and watch play cricket. We're lucky that we don't have to pay to watch, but this guy would pay to watch, definitely, a lot of money. A.B. de Villiers, a stunning batsman, the best one-day batsman in the world, a guy who's probably going to light up the tournament in India at some stage, the guy that England have got to try and silence in their first match as well, because they're playing South Africa early in the tournament next week. And so I've just put together a little video just highlighting some of his amazing shots. Either of the kind of amazing shots that you see in T20. Did you ever play any shots like that?
That was very good, Simon. Apart from when your face came on the screen.
I know, it ruins it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I just think with what you find in cricket these days, for the period that we played, and it was a long time ago, cricket was, I'm talking batting now, was very much a rocking motion. So when you bat, nowadays it's very much of a twisting golf-style tennis motion. So you go back to the 80s, you go back to the 90s, very much about getting your head and shoulder leading towards the ball, so that's the rocking motion, dipping into the shots. Now that you see a player, and all the players are trying, you see this twisting motion, you see that they come very square onto the ball, which is why they're gaining so much power. So you look at a golfer, the twisting motion is what golfers require to do. I look at a lot of the T20 players now, and that's what they're trying to achieve. And you mentioned, you know, I guess the bats that they use these days, all the old school players will say, oh yeah, the bats are bigger and the better. I really think that, yes, they have improved the willows in the hand, but it's more the motion of the technique has changed because they're twisted into the ball and they're kind of moving the body into the ball. But it's also hand speed. You know, a very similar thing's happening in golf where, you know, yeah, technology is getting better and the clubs are getting, you know, better and the ball can fly that bit further. But the hand speed of golfers and now particularly batsmen in T20 cricket of getting the hands through the ball with so much speed that's why the ball's travelling so far. And I have no question that if you put an old school bat of the 80s, 90s into the hands of one of the modern players now, the ball will still travel miles out of the ground. It's just this new technique which has arisen, and also the mindset of no fear. You mentioned it in your piece that someone like A.B. de Villiers has no fear. I wouldn't have any fear if I could play like that.
No, quite.
They don't have fear because they've been brought up with this kind of technique. They've been brought up with the mindset is that it doesn't matter, there's a boundary rider out there at mid-wicket. You've got the technique.
You hit it over his head.
Well, you smack it into the stands, you smack it out the grounds, you put it down onto the street.
And also, if you get caught by a fielder on the boundary, whereas, you know, probably, certainly in my era, maybe less in your era, but you get told off, wouldn't you? You get a bollocking from the coach. What a stupid shot. There's a man there. Why did you go and play that shot? But now, in this sort of form of the game, if you get out caught and the man's on the boundary, you're almost sort of encouraged, well, you know, okay, never mind, but have a go next time.
Yeah, I think that's a fine balance. You know, I still think if you're getting caught on the edge, you've played a poor shot. You know, there's more shots, there's different shots that you can actually hit a ball and not be aiming at that guy on the edge. So I think sometimes a modern player would use it as an excuse, but that's just the way that we play.
Yeah.
So, for instance, England have been wonderful in one-day cricket now for a year, complete different kind of mindset and approach to what we've seen for many, many years, and they're picking the right style of players. But I do think they are going a little bit. It's like poker; they're all in.
Yeah.
Every single game they
Going
play,
blind.
it's all in. Everything's. They don't look at the pitch. They don't look at the conditions. They just go all in. You know, you're going to lose hands. You know, I think they can be smarter and better than that. They've just got to play the situation that little bit better. You know, you don't win a World Cup by going all in on every single occasion. Now and again, you've got to realise that a pitch is 280. Just because you got 330 on the first game of the series doesn't mean that you're going to get 330 on every single pitch that you play on. So I think the England team are on a real nice curve. They're going in a nice direction, but they've also got to realise that awareness of the game situations and different conditions. And once they get that and that smartness, and that comes with experience, they're going to be a proper team. Just
going back to de Villiers again one more time. I mean, I can't praise him highly enough. And one of the things that is interesting about him is that we saw from those videos there how he can hit the ball in different directions from different spots. Now, if we just look at this graphic here, which I've called up from Hawkeye, you'll see it looks a bit complicated, but it's actually quite simple. The yellow balls are the ones he's hit on the leg side, and the red ones are the ones he's hit on the offside. And how that really confounds traditional batting, because quite a few, normally you'd expect the balls on your legs would be hit to the leg side and the balls outside off stump would be hit to the offside. But you can see that some of those balls, like the red one on his left knee, he's managed to hit through the offside by backing away, and the yellow ball way outside off stump, and the yellow ball kind of quite high out just by the end of his bat, he's managed to hit on the leg side because he's walked right across his stumps. So although T20 to some people might be a bit radical and kind of a bit of a slog, there is amazing repertoire and range to these batsmen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate to go and see some of the young players at Yorkshire develop and kind of look at the way that they practice. And the only thing I ever say to them is, look, when you're practicing, they have machines now that can deliver a ball at any spot that you want. So I always say to them, right, get a ball to be delivered, say the off-stump ball full of length. Now, you as a younger player, you have to work a way of realising that same ball that pitches there, you've got to try and hit it 360 degrees. Up to you to decide how you're going to do it. But the only way that you can be the best player in the world, and that's what you've got to aim to be, is by hitting that same ball there all the way around the ground. So as soon as the captain moves a field, you can go, all right, you've moved a fielder there, I can put it over there. You've put a fielder there, all right, I'm going to put it over there. But that's the same ball. And then once you've done that ball, you go, right, I'm going to have to do the same routine to the ball that's on leg stump. And this is what all the real quality players, Joe Root, A.B. de Villiers, Steve Smith, Virat Kohli, this is how they train now. They train with the machines, they get it on different lengths, different lines, and they try and hit all those different lines and lengths to all parts of the ground. Yeah. That's why you're seeing so many different shots. And that's the graphic there that you can see that it doesn't really matter where you bowl to A.B. de Villiers. If he decides that he's going to hit you to over backward point, he'll work away. Yeah. If he decides he's going to get you to fine leg, I'm afraid as a bowler, he's going to get it there. And that's the wonderful way of some of the players. I think bowlers have got to try and counteract that with something. But I've been trying to think for a long time, if I was a bowler, what I would do, I'd cheat.
Or give up.
Well, I would. I
become a batsman.
I can understand why spinners try and get a little bit of the bent arm action, just try and get more revolutions on the ball.
That's been banned now.
Well, yeah, no, I wouldn't ban that. I think it's spin. It's not going to hurt you. Get over it. And I really think that's something that bowlers have to look at.
They're so limited. I mean, I agree with you, but the bowlers are so limited. I mean, I've been trying to say to some of the young England bowlers, try going round the wicket, bowl behind the stumps, bowl at from different places, because batsmen are batting in different places. They're moving all over the place. So bowlers have got to bowl, jump out wide or go in close, or bowl a little bit earlier than the batsman's expecting. Bowl from the back crease rather than the front crease, for instance.
In T20 cricket, I actually think you're as likely to have as much success if you don't know what you're trying to produce as a bowler. Yeah. So if you've no idea really what's coming out of your arm, there's no chance that the batsman's going to know. If you're consistent, so if you're a test match style bowler, that's why you see a lot of test match quality of consistent line and length. In T20 cricket, they get smashed out the ground because it's the easiest ball to hit.
Yeah, the length ball.
Those that have success in T20 cricket, they have a little bit of unorthodox about the action. They're a bit different. Malinga, Santoki from the West Indies had that sling. Mystery spin, spinning it both ways is a must. If you just spin it one way now in T20 cricket, you might get an over, you might get 9 balls where you do okay, but the remaining few balls of your spell will probably go into the stands. So you've got to have that mystery of taking wickets. And the World Cup that's just started in India, I think the bowlers that have that mystery of bowling either way, I think the leg spinners are going to be crucial. So for England, Adil Rashid's going to have an incredible tournament. If Rashid produces the magic like he did in the Big Bash, England can compete. If he doesn't, I don't see Moeen Ali, who's just an orthodox off spinner with just one way of spinning the ball. In India, he might have again an over or two which is competitive, but he'll have an over or two that might disappear into the stands, and that's why Rashid's going to be so important.
Before we get on, we can just preview the series a little bit, the tournament a little bit in a minute, but before we get on to that, let's just have a straw poll here about what you guys feel about T20 compared to, say, Test cricket. So hands up if you prefer Test cricket to T20. And we see... So that's quite a few, actually. Okay, that's probably more than half. Hands up if you prefer T20 to Test. Only 2. Interesting. Okay, so those who prefer T20, and there are only 2 people, can we find out from you why you prefer it? Can you put your hand up again if you said you preferred T20? Why do you prefer T20?
I guess I find it a lot more exciting. You've also got, like you just demonstrated, it takes a lot more skill to a certain level. Surely Test match requires a lot more patience, but I personally think T20 probably requires a bit more skill, a bit more creative thinking. And at the end of the day, I find it a lot more exciting. But
I think what you've almost said in a way is that T20 requires more patience. Test match cricket requires more patience to watch, as well as it does to play. In a way, what about the other person who said T20? What's your kind of take on T20 cricket? Why do you like it more?
I agree with my man over there. The pace of the game, I think, is a lot more exciting. It's a more watchable game, I find. In terms of, that you're on the attack at T20, you're playing the ball all the time, so there's no time to sort of, let the game go by you as a player. So I think watching-wise, it feels like a more exciting game to me. Okay,
well, let's go to somebody who put their hand up for Test cricket now, and you've got to counter the argument. So hands up who said they definitely preferred Test cricket, and don't all be shy suddenly. Come on. Well, so let's say you at the front here then. One of you 2 guys at the front. Why do you prefer Test cricket?
So Test cricket tests your character, patience, everything, every skill. I mean, a skill which will be tested in T20 can be tested in Test cricket as well. I mean, I like watching Test. I mean, Test cricket has always been there. Yes, T20, yes, once in a while you can watch. You can play as well. I mean, you can criticize that. But overall, Test cricket is the ultimate game, I would say.
And what do you prefer?
Well, I love all forms. I think what cricket's great is that you can feed every mindset. You can feed a mindset that's about here and now, 3 hours, done and dusted. Then you can feed the mindset that likes the longer format with a game of chess, if you like, and it's a real tactical, mental game in Test match cricket. There's 50 overs in the middle of that as well. Test match cricket is the ultimate. It's the game that really challenges you as an individual because...
Challenges your mind, doesn't it? As much as it... I mean, we've sort of heard that a little bit from the audience here too.
Well, it challenges you because, you may arrive on day one, on many occasions, I'd scored 0 on day one, yet you've still got 4 days to play, so you've got to be with the team, and you've got to be with your mind to make sure that you arrive on day 2, knowing possibly that you're not going to get a bat, but you're going to have to field all day, and still be with the team. And then by day 3, potentially day 4, you've got to go out there and bat again. So it's the constant drain of the brain of testing you mentally of how you're going to react to, a lot of it's disappointment. yes, there's great times where you get hundreds, you win games, but I would say the main kind of difficulty with Test match cricket is dealing with disappointment and how you deal with those days where you know that you've got to come back from a real poor day as a bowler. The first day you might have a bad 20 overs and then you have to come back on day 2 to respond to that. But I just think T20, I agree with you actually. Many of the old players will say, yeah, there's no pressure in T20 cricket, it's just there's lots of pressure. There's the ultimate pressure, there's more crowds. Everyone's expecting.
Well, and every ball is an event, isn't it, in a way? I mean, we saw today Oman, I keep saying Afghanistan. Oman played Ireland, and believe it or not, they won. Oman beat Ireland about 40 minutes ago. But one of the Irish batsmen played out a maiden. Now, you're saying that playing out a maiden in T20 is a droppable offence.
I think it's, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just don't get how you can play a maiden out in T20 cricket because you play 4 balls and you've had 4 dot balls. I'm captain in T20 cricket. For those remaining 2 balls of the over, you put everyone on the ring. Just allow them to have the singles. So I don't see how you can get a maiden in T20 cricket, but it happened today. But that's the ultimate pressure. I really do think that T20 cricket has taken cricket pressure of that moment of delivery to the ultimate. A Big Bash game in Melbourne was played, and this is a domestic competition, was played in front of 85,000 people. You go to the IPL in India, which starts just after the T20 World Cup, there'll be 110,000 people in Calcutta. So I think T20, I believe it's safe cricket. I really do. I think it's safe cricket. I think it's made it cool. I think it will create revenue streams around the world. It has done in Australia. It has done in India. It will do here when eventually a franchise-style 8-team city tournament, it will arrive here in 2020. Razzmatazz, it'll bring a new audience. And that'll be good for the game. I don't see it as a competitive nature. I just see it as a real good format where new audiences, maybe girls and younger kids,
families,
they can get it. As long as you activate the fan properly at the grounds and you put on a real good show, which we've seen in the Big Bash is the key. You get your stars playing. It's an amazing product, but there's nothing like a Test match either. I love all stars.
It's great. Cricket. I mean, cricket in a way is so lucky, I think. I mean, we've got cricket in this country now for over 300 years. Since the 1700s, it's been played in England. And I think cricket's great survival mechanism, in a way, is its adaptability. Because in those early days, 1700s, there was 11 a side, there was 6 a side, there was single wicket competitions, double wicket competitions, a lot of gambling went on. And ever since, cricket has been able to adapt to different environments. We've had 5-day cricket, obviously. We had 3-day cricket in my era. Now it's 4-day county cricket. We've got 1-day cricket, and we've got the 2020 version. We've even got super overs. 1 over, play 1 over. So it is such an adaptable game, and there is science in the T20 competition. I think that will come out more and more actually as teams work out formulas for how to deal with different sections, different phases of the game. Now, who's going to win this World T20? Well, I'm going to give you some clues here, and we're going to do a little bit of science for 5 minutes by putting up the table here of recent performances of the teams involved, and they're in an order of win ratios. So India clearly are the most successful team in the last 2 years against the other international sides, the other best sides around. Now, if we sort of just analyse that a little bit more deeply, India, if you look along the line there, obviously they've won 13 and lost only 5 in the last 2 years. Batting average of 31, which actually is not the highest. South Africa have the highest batting average over that period. But look at their bowling average, 19.25, which is the best. And their economy rate is also, I think, the best. So clearly, although we think of T20 as a batsman's game, big hitters, Chris Gale, etc., winning games, actually, the Indian team have been successful because of their bowlers. And the bowlers, a little bit that Michael mentioned before, they've got mystery spinners. They've got a guy called Ravi Ashwin who spins the ball both ways. They've got a left-arm spinner who can bowl fast and slow, Ravi Jadeja. They've also got a very good death bowlers, people bowling at the end of the innings, unknown bowlers like a guy called Jasper Bumrah, who has got a weird action but he's quite hard to pick and bowls very good Yorkers. And it's funnily enough, it's the bowling that has actually made India the most successful team and the favourites for the tournament. They're playing obviously in their home grounds as well. Look down the list and let's have a look at England, whose recent T20 form actually has been pretty good, although it doesn't look like it from this table, but they've actually won 6 out of about 8 in the last year. And see, their weakness, their batting is actually strike rate, run rate, 8.34 is the best, apart from Australia. Very, very good run rate, but their bowling is terrible. 29 average, 8.81 economy rate, giving away nearly 9 and over. So that's where England have to try and sort of improve, I think, and their batting is pretty good. But India are going to be the team to beat, clearly from that table.
Yeah, I mean, I can't look beyond India. I mean, they've just won the Asia Cup. They've got all the quality of experience because of, if you actually look at the caps in the Indian squad, they've got Harbhajan Singh in there, they've got Yuvraj Singh, they've got Neera in there, they've got Dhoni, they've got Virat.
Amazing
Kohli,
batting, haven't they?
Rohit Sharma, Dhawan.
Yeah.
They've got everything covered in experience, with the experience of the IPL as well. They're on home soil. They cope with the pressure of winning the 50-over World Cup on home soil, which was a big hurdle because everyone thought, maybe the pressure would be getting too much for the Indian side, but they know how to deal with that. And MS Dhoni is the coolest cookie in town when it gets to the pressure zone. So some teams are going to have to play an incredible 3-hour game to beat them. We've just seen them win that Asia Cup by strolling it, really. Yeah, they got put under a couple of pressure occasions, but I just think they know how to win that moment.
They beat Australia 3-0, didn't they?
Yeah, they just know how to win the T20 cricket. You break it into little fractions of the game, that first 6 overs. They just know how to win that first 6 overs, and then you break it to that 6 to 14 period where you still go for it, but you're kind of setting up for the final 6. And MS Dhoni is just a past master of knowing exactly how to set the game up.
The finisher.
You got Jadeja, who's very clever in that period as well. Bangladesh are at the bottom of that list. They got to the Asia Cup final, and Indian wickets with the spin options. Mataza as captain is very, very clever. They've got a few younger players that, I haven't heard of, to be honest, but they've come in through, and I've watched them recently. They're very, good on those kind of wickets. Pakistan, World Cups generally get the best out of them, but you're never too sure what they're going to produce.
Pakistan, interestingly, have got 3 left-arm fast bowlers. And that's an area which has been quite an interesting development in T20 particularly, and one-day cricket. Left-arm over, and they've got 3 very different left-arm overs. They've got Wahab Riaz, who's fast and aggressive and a bit mad, and they've got the very tall guy, Irfan, what's his name?
Pathan.
Not Irfan Pathan. Mohammed Irfan, yeah, who's 7'1", unbelievable. Why is he not playing basketball? And then they've got the recovered or returned Mohammed Amir as well, who's really good. So Pakistan have got now. Why are left arm fast bowlers effective? More effective?
Well, I just think with left armers, and then you've got left arm, right and up. You can defend one side of the ground. Most grounds have one side of the ground, like you want to try and get the batsman to hit towards. England won the T20 World Cup in Barbados a few years ago. Ryan Sidebottom, and they just tried it, and it was very windy.
Are you going to talk about anyone apart from Yorkshire players?
Well, no, because they generally, when England are winning, they've got Yorkshire players in it. So
I can't argue with that.
Pretty true. So what happened is they bowl the left arm, and they can hit towards the wind or the bigger side of the ground. And also that ability, if a white ball's going to swing, it's going to swing for the first 2 or 3 overs. Generally, those that have great success bowl with the brand new ball, first over, and swing it back into the pads. And because you're trying to hit the ball, there's a chance that you're going to get some wickets as well. So I think that's why they're a threat. Bowling those wide Yorkers as well, with a little bit of tail when the ball gets to the 16, 17, 18 over mark. Again, with the ball shaping away from the right-hander, really bowled towards the white line, the umpire's line, you bowl inside that. You can only get hit to one side, and I think that's why captains really like the left arm. I'd love a left arm in my team if I was skipper in the team, because you can, if they get it right. And you've got to set fields for when the bowlers are getting it right. You can set a field that you can kind of block out. If you've got a right arm that's going straight, going wide, it can go to all parts. The 360 degrees comes into play. So I think with left armers, there's not it's a lot harder for a batsman to hit the ball 360 degrees, and that's what you're trying to protect in T20 cricket, is making sure that you're not giving them all the options of hitting you to all the parts of the ground. Also I think Mohammed Amir is going to be great to watch. It's quite staggering that he's back playing, in my opinion, but what
you wouldn't have allowed him back, you mean?
I didn't.
So you'd ban Maria Sharapova for life, would you?
Absolutely, yeah. She cheated.
Yeah.
No question. Yeah, I just
it's
think
interesting. My kids, you see, it's funny. I mean, my kids are saying, "Oh, let her off. Ban her for 2 years." I'm going, "Well, why?" Well, because she's a really good player and she sounded sorry. I mean, it's sort of.
So if she was really bad, just ban her. That's fine. I'd clear any cheats out of the sport.
Would you rather have won the Ashes, or would you rather hold aloft the World Cup?
The Ashes is for me. I enjoyed that.
Why?
I don't know. I mean, you beat Australia. I wouldn't mind beating Australia in the World Cup
But you're
final.
beating the world when you're winning the World Cup.
Yeah, but it's Australia. It's different.
It's more like sort of fathers and sons, isn't it? It's like beating your son, in a way. We're the mother country.
Yeah, and your uncle and everyone to go with it. The Ashes are... I mean, I was brought up with... it's a different era now. I was brought up purely on the longer format of the game. It was, defence, leave, batting for long periods of time. Australia dominated throughout my... time coming up through county cricket in the 90s, try to work the way into the England side, and all of a sudden, I get into the England side, we get hammered in a series in Australia 4-1. They were dominating, bullying in a way because of their mindset. They really make you feel quite small on the pitch. Steve Waugh is the skipper. By 05, I wanted a bit of that. I wanted to try and beat them and, to try and do it in the right fashion. The only way, you could compete with that Australian side was to kind of meet fire with fire and just take them on, take risks. And this is the T20 World Cup in a way that I don't think you can win any big tournament without taking big risks. I don't think you can do anything in life without taking risks. And I think that's where... That
was the secret of your 05.
Yeah, massive risk. We could have lost 5-0. The way that we played, we were smart at times, but we had to play the way they played just to match them. So it was very aggressive with the bat, with the ball in hand, set fields that we knew we might get hit for runs, but ultimately it was about getting those 10 wickets. And then, also you need a bit of luck. Win the toss at the right time. Bat first was crucial because Shane Warne...
Put the ball out for the Australian fast bowler to trip
Glenn
on.
McGraw tripping over a ball or two. That's fine.
Well, how do you balance risk and good sense, though? I mean, how do you lost that first test, and you're taking risks. It was like two bull elephants meeting head on, but you lost. But then you weren't afraid to take risks the second time. How did you know to do that?
Well, I just think if you're taking a risk to play a certain way, actually in the first test match we didn't take enough risks. Our batsmen were too timid. They didn't take them on enough, and I was disappointed with that because I'd picked the style of player to be really aggressive, and we were a little bit, McGraw's a good bowler, and kind of went into our shells, and Warney spins it, so we kind of just blocked it a little bit. The next test match, it was a clear game plan. If Shane Warne flicks it in the air, you try to whack it into the stands. If a leg spinner bowls at you in the net.
So you're saying back yourself and be fearless, really?
Yeah,
I mean, is that something that works in life, do you think?
Yeah, it can do. Not always. It's a risk that I felt was worth taking, and by the time that it works and you get back to 1-1, you just go, guys, just keep going with it. You have to keep going with it. And that's why this T20 World Cup will be won by the team that takes the risk at the right time, but there'll also be a period where a team will go, yeah, we don't actually need 190. We've lost a couple of wickets. We can't just keep going for the sixes. 140 will be enough. Just get 140, 150 on this kind of wicket and we'll win. If England think they're going to win a World Cup by just whacking it all the time, yes, it's great to watch and I love the mindset, but they might just have to have a period where they go, you know what, let's just get in the game. South Africa just recently in the one-day series, they should have won that series easily. And the only reason they didn't win that series was because of...
They went a bit mad, actually.
It's quite fun to watch.
It was fun to watch. I mean, Owen Morgan said to me at one stage, near the end of the series, I said, why did you get bowled out for 3 overs from the end, all playing big shots? And he said, well, we saw the short boundary and we just wanted to all hit the ball that way. So you can get into this sort of mindset where you're just fixated on dominance at any cost. And it did cost England a bit. We should mention, by the way, that you can follow the whole of the ICC World Cup on the app, from the App Store. There is an ICC official app which gives you all the details, all the stats. and so on. Let's just sort of open it up to you guys. I mean, what would you like to ask if we get some questions here about anything in cricket? I mean, clearly the T20 World Cup is uppermost in our minds, but there's obviously other cricket going on this summer as well.
I have two questions. First for you, Simon. You wrote an article, I would say 1 year back, that MS Dhoni is right up there to be the sports person of 21st century. Do you still stick to that?
I do. I mean, I don't like the way that his image has been
worldwide?
tarnished.
Worldwide?
What, worldwide?
What? Wait a minute. What?
Well, this was sort of probably after the World Cup.
After
wasn't
the
it?
World Cup, 1
It
year
was
back.
after 1 year back. I mean, I certainly thought after his performance in the World Cup 2011, I thought it was an astonishing performance to lift in it, because he actually volunteered, didn't he, in that final to go up the order, and he had been in no form at all, and suddenly he came on and smashed about 97. And I mean, things he did after that. I was on a one-day series in India the following year, and they played the first ever one-day international at his hometown, which is Ranchi. That's right, Ranchi.
Yeah.
And, you know, the way he kind of threw himself into it, and of course he was out there at the end to hit the winning runs, and I don't know, the way he threw himself into it and was so kind of passionate about the Indian game. Now, I know there's been question marks over his involvement with the Chennai Super Kings and the IPL ever since, and, you know, there's obviously a little bit of a cloud that has kind of descended over his image. But I definitely thought 3 years ago, I thought he was an amazing individual who gave himself so much to the game and contributed so much, and was an absolutely riveting guy to watch.
To Michael, Ian Morgan 3 weeks back gave an interview saying that England doesn't have a realistic chance to lift the World Cup trophy, World T20 trophy. How discouraging was that a statement coming from a captain of a national side?
Did he say that?
Yes, I read this on my way back to home in Evening Standard. I have the cutting with me as well. I
haven't read that. I mean, I'd like to see that, but
I was surprised. I was literally surprised coming from a national team captain. I asked this question to Mark Ramprakash at Lord's, and he said it's a ridiculous statement coming from a captain. What do you think?
Is that what he said? I like the way you go around just asking questions. You go to everywhere, don't you? That's nice. The one thing you have to have as a leader is ultimate confidence that you can win. You know, even if you... I really believe captaincy, the art of it and doing it well is conning the rest of the team. You know, it's an acting job. As much as you have to have a good strategy out in the middle, you have to be very clever in your tactics, team selection. You know, the ability of a captain to stand in a dressing room and actually take the other 10, 15 in the squad with you on a journey that is actually conning them to thinking that they can win something. That's a real skill in itself. You look at Brendan McCullum of what he has done with New Zealand cricket over the last 3 or 4 years as a captain. Yes, he's got a few good players, but he hasn't got as good a players as what he's taken them to. So what he's done with them, he's basically said that we're going to play this brand of cricket and we're going to keep playing that brand. And when you've got the ball in hand, we're going to have 4 or 5 slips. We're going to keep going for wickets. Because I believe you. I think you're going to get wickets all the time. You know, you hit that ball in that full of length area. Honestly, they'll make a mistake and all those slips are going to grab the ball. You know, I bet some of the bowlers probably looked like no chance. And he's kept on convincing them. And that's the art of captaincy. The art of leadership is conning people. You know, I think Owen Morgan, if he believes that England aren't going to win, I'd suggest he gets on the plane back. Because he can win. You know, T20 cricket's a funny game. It's
could that be a sort of ruse, though, to try and make to reduce your own expectations in your team and almost sort of be under the radar?
Yeah, but it doesn't work in this world. I think England won that World Cup in Barbados a few years ago. No one gave him a chance, and I put that T20 World Cup victory for England right up there because no one gave him. I think they were like 8th favourites going into that tournament, and they produced a strategy. They produced those slow ball bounces which surprised the opposition, and England will require that. They'll have to produce something tactically and strategically that we've not really seen before to surprise the opposition.
That's what I'm worried about.
I've no idea what it is.
Well,
I don't know what it is out there, and
I'm not sure they know what it is either at the moment.
Yeah, so that's what Owen's going to have to do. If he does that, Paul Collingwood did that in that T20 in the Caribbean, but maybe he's just trying to con you all to think that and deflate the situation, but
one of the things that England did have in that tournament was they had about 5 or 6 players that had played in the IPL, didn't they? Including Collingwood, the captain. And that does seem to be a massive influence to have been able to play enough cricket under that pressure in that environment.
I remember that tournament, and it was on the back of the IPL.
Yeah.
And that's why England were given no chance, because everyone's saying, well, England can't win. There wasn't that many players who had played that much IPL.
About 4 or 5.
But they hadn't been playing in the teams, they'd been sat on the bench. And they've said, how can England win the World Cup? Because you've got India, the New Zealanders, the South Africans, the Australians, all been playing in the IPL. Well, what happened was that all those that had been in the IPL, they were knackered. So England had capitalised on they got bored of playing 20. They'd played 9 weeks non-stop 2020 cricket, those that had been in the IPL. So they got bored with it, and England kind of produced a system and a strategy, and it worked. Well, what you're finding in this tournament, that's why I just say India are so clear favourites, because it's before the IPL, they're fresh. Yes, they've been playing probably a month of T20 cricket getting ready with the Asia Cup, and they just look ripe for it. Dhoni, I can't think that he's going to make the next one. He's won a World Cup 50 over in his own country. I'd be staggered if he's not lifting that trophy in a few weeks' time.
Let's have another question. Lady over there.
I'm not sure you two can do anything about this, but I spent most of the South Africa-England Test Match series and ODI series glued to TMS because I don't have Sky Sports. If we want to get more people watching cricket, can we please have some more cricket on terrestrial TV?
I mean, there is some terrestrial TV cricket in a way at the moment, because the BBC have actually got the highlights rights to this tournament, the World T20. And I think that's going to be the way it'll go for a while, because basically nobody can afford to pay the same amounts of money that Sky and BT can offer. And the boards are all going to try and sell, the big tournaments to those very, very big payers. So the way to be able to watch, and I mean, there's Channel 5 highlights, which we obviously both work on, and I think is a good product.
Very good show.
It's a good product. I mean, that isn't live, but it is almost live, and sometimes we're on air when the play is still going on, so it kind of is live in a way. But I think that the way that people watch cricket now, if you look at my kids, for instance, they watch everything on YouTube. I'm sure yours do as well. Probably plenty of you or your kids do too. And I think the more that time goes on, the more platforms there are, and the ICC app, for instance, is also showing highlights, clips of all the games on the World T20. I think it's going to go more like that. And the trouble with, say, the BBC or ITV is that they can't schedule. They've got so much other stuff now, daytime TV, which sells and delivers. And Test cricket in particular is very unpredictable. Some tests last 2.5 days, some of them last 5 days. So they can't really set their schedules very easily to be able to cater for Test cricket. So the best way of dealing with that is to show highlights clips on their websites and things like that, which most people can access.
Yeah, that's an easy excuse. The reality is that it has to be seen on terrestrial TV. There has to be a moment where the ECB...
But how do we get to that?
No, it's
stage?
very simple, very, very simple. The administration of the game have to realise that we have a product now that's very easy to schedule for terrestrial TV. T20 cricket, 3.5 hours, you can schedule that on terrestrial TV. Yes, they need to bid for it, but more so the game needs it to happen. So the next round of broadcasting agreement, which is next year, the tender agreements, the international games, Test match cricket, 50 over cricket, that's not going to ever happen on terrestrial television. I just can't see how it can, as Simon said, the scheduling. So what will happen is the new T20 tournament, and it will arrive, it certainly will, it'll be like the Big Bash, it'll be a 4 or 5 week window, 8 teams. That has to be given to terrestrial station to try and get the brand out there. I talk about cricket that I just don't think there's enough cafe chat. And what I mean by cafe chat, the Monday morning, I have a full fry up every Monday morning. Go into my local cafe and I always listen around. I'm interested about what people are talking about. Not once has cricket ever been the topic of conversation on a Monday morning, and that worries me. Now, if you can get it on terrestrial TV and you can get BBC involved or an ITV and you can get a new audience watching the game and stumbling across cricket, well, cricket can grow and it becomes part of it. And it will be the T20 style format. And if you get them involved in T20 cricket, a young fan might go, what else is involved in it? Oh, the actual fact, there's 50 overs cricket and then there's Test match cricket. So I'll be amazed if the ECB aren't looking at the next round of deals of giving the T20 rights to a terrestrial show, maybe in partnership with a pay-per-view, because you do need that powerhouse of cash. If you get that, I think the brand will build. And then once that tournament's set up, and it might be 2 years, 3 years, you might be able to get away with putting it on pay-per-view fully because everyone's kind of bought into it. It's a razzmatazz show. I'll give you a stat. So Australia has every single piece of action that Australia Cricket, Big Bash, Channel 10, Channel 9, every single Australian can see every single ball in Australia. Their cricket participation in the last 2 years has grown by 37%. Cricket in the UK, we like it. Obviously, you're here. It's going like this. And the powerhouses might say, oh, no, it's not. It's fine. It is going like this. The stats tell you that if 100 kids are asked what their favourite sport is, only 5 put cricket in the top 5. And the list of sports now that you say to a kid of 10...
34 sports.
Yeah, you say, name is there's 34. In the 80s, there was 7. So cricket is competing with so many different sports. You know, cycling is the biggest sport in the UK. And because we've got Olympic champions, we've got people that we've seen, Victoria Pendleton, Chris Hoy, Wigo, we see them on a regular basis. So kids go, I want a piece of that. You know, golf's taken a massive hit. Saturday afternoon cricket, you know, I've been kind of arguing with leagues on a Saturday, the kind of every league that you play in, the Middlesex League, Yorkshire League. So they continue to play 50 overs on a Saturday, 60 overs in some cases. Too long. You know, parents want to be with their kids on a Saturday day, Sunday day. Why can't you play 20 overs on a Saturday morning? You know, so people are still playing the game. I'm a massive advert that plastic cricket, you know, plastic bats, plastic balls, they should carry on playing that because why would you want to defer someone from playing cricket just because they might get hurt? You know, and that's a realistic fact. You know, you might get hurt, so you don't want to play the game. You know, a hard ball coming out, you go, oh, I don't want to play. Well, carry on with plastic balls, plastic bats. We should have a plastic ball, plastic bat system in the country where we as adults might want to play that. You know, why would you want to defer anyone from playing cricket? It doesn't matter what cricket it is. It could be beach cricket, indoor cricket, five-a-side. It doesn't matter. As long as people are playing cricket, they'll watch cricket and they'll talk about cricket. And once we get that, you know what? It might start to grow again.
I'll add to that by saying that I think that if you look at other sports in the world at the moment, domestic sport is sort of where it's at in a way. American domestic sport is the thing that sells. In football, it's the Champions League, it's the Premiership that sells. In cricket, it's the IPL and it's the Big Bash, domestic tournaments. So I agree with Michael, if we can generate interest we will generate interest if we create an 8-team or 10-team franchise city-based type tournament in 2 or 3 years' time. I think it'd be massive for this country, and we will be able to sell it to terrestrial TV. And I think, you know, the rugby Six Nations is an interesting indicator to that because it's shared between BBC and ITV.
Well,
so they've managed to be able to bid.
So the FA Cup, for the last 2 years, it's been on the BBC and BT. It's a combination. You know, the FA Cup is now become quite well known again because we all can see it. I mean, Peterborough versus, I don't know who the replay, West Brom I think it was, they had 7.8 million watching the replay. I mean, that's a huge figure. You know, and you actually forget that City go to Chelsea and they put out an under-5 team. But it's you kind of go, well, the FA Cup's become cool again. You know, because everyone's talking about it, everyone's seeing it. Massive game, Man United versus West Ham. You know, in a week or so's time, and it's back being kind of part of that cafe chat. You know, Monday morning you walk in the cafes once the FA Cup's been on the weekend, everyone's talking about it because they've seen it. Cricket needs that.
I can't believe your recommendations for wins every weekend for football is based on your cafe chat on a Monday morning with a load of lorry drivers.
All I can say, if you've not seen me accumulators, please follow.
Okay, I think we've got sort of time for a couple more. So, anybody else got a burning question? Man at the back.
I've been talking about Test cricket in 2020. We've not spoken about one-day cricket hardly at all. Do you think it has a future?
I think it's a great game, 50-over cricket. I mean, you know, the great thing about being able to create an event is to make sure it's on at a time when people can watch. So day-night cricket, for instance, in other parts of the world, even in England at certain times of the year, 2:30 start. It means that even if you've got to work until 5 or 6, you can get along for the second innings. And I think the one thing about the 50-over game, which I still like, is that it doesn't depend on one dramatic performance over 4 overs. In a T20 game, someone can come in, they can whack 36 in 4 overs, the game's over, basically. You're not going to be able to compete with that. Whereas in a one-day 50-over game, someone can hit 36 or 4 overs, but then they get out, and then there's a bit of a decline in the innings, and the other team can see what they need to chase, and there might be some ebbs and flows in that innings too. So I think there's a little bit more fluctuation in a 50-over match, which makes it a little bit more interesting to watch on occasion. So I do think it has a role.
I'll be dead honest. I think if we're looking at a future where the IPL plays April, May, then we're hopefully going to have our own style English Premier League, say July, August. And then you go to the Big Bash, which is fantastic, December, January. Where's 50 over going to fit if we want Test match cricket to thrive as well?
World Cup?
Maybe every 4 years you have a World Cup where you don't play in between, maybe. But I don't think that cricket is...
I mean, the thing is, the reason why it's successful, the reason why it's maintained, is a financial reason, and that is because 50 overs aside, 100 overs equals 100 commercial breaks of 30 seconds, so that you do your sums. Therefore, it brings the broadcasters back in the revenue that they've spent on the rights. So I think it has a longevity purely because of that reason, because it delivers a lot of adverts for a day's cricket.
Yeah, but you can't build your
I'm not saying it's a good thing, but that's why that's the strategy.
If you want to have these T20 leagues that are, as we see they are, the fantastic products, the revenue streams that are generated because of them, the adverts within them, there's that many
owners as well, the owners of teams
absolutely.
as well.
I don't think I think cricket's got to be realistic. I don't think we can fill every market like we maybe could have done 10 years ago because there's no T20 cricket. T20 for me has arrived and brought a new product, and it's brought a kind of life to the game.
Do you think actually that perhaps...
And I don't think it's bad to have T20 and Test cricket.
Well,
I think the
maybe
gap's quite nice
50 over could be just a World Cup type thing,
yeah,
and then 20 overs is a domestic.
It looks like that you're just looking after your little brother there a bit. It's either there or it isn't. You either stick with it and go with it, or you kind of realise...
Okay, who here would like to see the end of... Who here thinks that 50 over cricket doesn't hold any interest for them? Hands up. 50 over. So you obviously had a reason for asking that. So everyone else here is reasonably happy with 50 overs, are they?
There's 365 days in a year, can I just tell you that? And how are you going to get all the cricket? And if we want to...
Well, you just said there's 365 days in a year.
Yeah, but lads can't play every day, and girls, you can't get them
They're
out
trying
there playing.
to. Joe Root's away 300 days a year.
My passion is Test match cricket. I want to save Test match cricket. With the way Test match cricket is going, and this is real, you'll find that Test match cricket will be gone in 20 years. I'm telling you, it'll be gone because it's a product that's not selling. There's not enough watching it. Players are going to decide to play T20 cricket because of it. So you have to fill the market with T20 cricket where players go and just solely play Big Bash. Give them the opportunity to play.
So are you saying that in 20 years, the only cricket is going to be T20?
Potentially, yeah. Because it's a product that the whole world might get. It's a product that
it might be the Olympics.
No, that'll be something different.
6-a-side and
Could
indoors
be
or something.
Yeah, maybe. But I'm just trying to look miles ahead and think, for cricket to be a global game, some game that every single person in the world can get and find out, how do you play that? All right, it's 20 overs, 3 hours, right, done and dusted. 5 days, 4 days, 3 days, 2 days, 50 overs, 60 overs, 20 overs, 40 overs. It's very difficult to understand cricket. For it to be a real global brand worldwide in every country.
It has been like that, cricket, throughout its history. It's been, as I said at the start, it's been a very adaptable game, but I suppose it does need to crystallise those sort of different formats. And I guess in 20 years' time it could be the Apple T20 World Cup, couldn't it? Do you reckon?
Well, it might be 10-10.
Yeah, 10-10.
Might got rid of 20, might got
okay, let's have one more question maybe, and then I think we probably ought to wind up. So go for it.
Hi there. We're talking about how we've got to grow the game globally and that T20 is a great opportunity to do that. But whilst we speak, we've had Ireland, Oman, we've got the qualifier before the real cricket starts. Are we doing enough to encourage the affiliate nations to get involved?
Absolutely not. I mean, if you look at the next World Cup, it's supposed to be only 10 teams, which is an absolute joke. And, you know, there's a totally disproportionate amount of money handed out to the different countries. The low countries get nothing. A country like Zimbabwe, that's cricket is slightly on the up again, is getting sort of $3 million instead. The takeover of India, Australia and England at the ICC, which was publicised quite heavily 6 months ago, 9 months ago, was appalling. And definitely there needs a better share out of funds and encouragement. It's great to see a team like Oman or Afghanistan do well. I mean, it's fantastic because, you know, as Michael says, we need to spread the game. It's a great game, cricket. That's why we're here. We're passionate about it. We want more people to share in it. But the way that the ICC have handled it in the last 5 years has been shit.
Cut. I just think cricket it's kind of sometimes gets lost in the dark ages of just looking after what it is now. The game needs to really look where it's going to be and try and grab every country in the world to play the game. Why not? You know, T20 is a format that most countries could get. You know, you could get a Chinese team playing. Why not? They'll probably be very good. You know, and then certainly adapt very quickly. You know, I think the more opportunities that we can give to many other teams and many other countries, the better the game will grow.
America, you played in that
they liked it.
Tendulkar v. Vaughan sort of extravaganza in America.
Absolutely.
How did that go down?
Yeah, great. I mean, there's many leagues in America. You know, you'd want to grab that. I don't see why you just want to keep it to what it is and kind of make the strong get stronger. And those. But I'm a big believer in Test match cricket. We should have leagues. You know, I really think that Test match cricket needs something to happen. So the Test game is the one game, and all the figures tell you this in terms of finance, in terms of people watching. It's just going like this. Yet nothing gets done about it. 50 over cricket, the rules change every year. They're trying to do something with it.
And
now,
now,
why
if
not
you
change something?
If you're down low in the rankings in one day, as you don't get in the Champions Trophy and things as well.
No, but
so there's a sort of a coherence.
But if you had a Test format where you had league systems, so 5 in the league, the top 5, and then you had promotion and relegation.
That'd be great.
So every single game mattered. So if you're 2-0 up in a series with 1 to play, you wouldn't realise because that last game means points. You know, if you lose it, you might go down by a place in the league. And after that year in the league, and every single year there has to be a winner. You know, football, you know the winner. The IPL, you know the winner. Big Bash, you know the winner. Champions League, you know the winner. Test match cricket's like, who's number one?
And who cares as well,
and
really?
in 4 years' time, you know.
What about
4 years for kids to understand?
What about
My
FA
kids
Cup?
can't even know what's going on tomorrow.
What about the FA Cup and FA Cup style competition for English cricket?
Yeah,
as well?
I'd have gone in for that. I've certainly bought into every single league and every single team being available to enter an FA Cup style T20 tournament. I would go for a qualifier the year before across all the regions. So the winner of Yorkshire would play the winner of Lancashire. And then I would go to the accountants and say, right, you've got to name your T20 squad for this tournament. It's got to be 15 players, 25 generally in the county staff. The other 10 players go back to the league, back to the teams. So the actual competition would grow and grow. So you may end up with a Yorkshire Academy team who play in the Yorkshire League playing against Yorkshire in round 2. Great.
I suppose you're going to nominate
story that would
you're going to
be.
nominate Yorkshire for the county championship this year, aren't you?
Well, they'll win it again, yeah.
Okay, well, you heard it here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just check if they actually do and remind him. Will you write that down, okay, and come back to him? Turn up to some sort of do in Leeds in October.
Wear that
and when
same blue
when they
jacket.
ended up 5th, maybe you could confront him.
5th.
Very good. Right. Listen, I think that's probably time up. It's 7 o'clock. Thank you very much for attending. I mean, we can just knock around for 5-10 minutes afterwards if you've got any other burning questions. There are some copies of the Cricketer magazine T20 World Cup preview little package to give away. So if you want to hover around,
you would never guess who the editor was, would you?
Well, I mean, you know, the Cricketer magazine is coming. It's like county cricket. It's going to have a new lease of life.
And there's a Times paper that you can buy off him as well if you want that.
But anyway, thank you very much for attending. It's been a pleasure, and
Thank
Michael
you.
and I have enjoyed it. Thank you.